guys, Ken here, your thrifty apprentice, and welcome back to another thrifty review. In today's quick review, we are going to be taking a look at the Miya Himi 18 color jelly gouache set. I have been eyeing this set for months now. I dropped them in my Amazon cart almost half a year ago. I finally decided to purchase them because, as you guys may or may not know, I am currently putting together an extreme beginners gouache course, which will be available on teachable.com. Please stay tuned for information coming up about that in the near future. If you think you would be interested in an extreme beginners course on gouache, learning the basics, getting a quick roadmap to get jump started in gouache painting, and sort of getting a look into my world of how I use gouache, which is mainly for illustrative purposes. But this particular set is absolutely gorgeous. It comes in several different color plastic palettes. There's a pink one, a blue and a yellow, or maybe a blue and a green. I can't really remember, but you can get it in one of those assortment of colors. It comes in a really heavy duty plastic palette. Mine was bubble wrapped when it came. It's really nice plastic. The lid has snaps on it that goes horizontal, and they do snap down really well in order to hold that lid on really tight. So that's really nice. As you can see, there's not much on the palette. It just has the Himi printing. It says gouache 18 colors, 30 milliliters, because each one of the little jelly cups are 13 milliliters. So that is an extreme amount of gouache per color. Flipping it over on the back, you just have Himi. It lets you know that the color palette is pink. Shelf life 36 months, 18 colors, 30 milliliters. Miya Stationery Company Incorporated. It lets you know that it's made in the Zhejiang province of China. Made in China, conforms to ASTM D4236 regulation. It gives a really small color swatch chart here that shows you the colors as well as gives you the color names. That's UPC code. Yeah, so that's pretty much straightforward what the palette looks like on the outside. Let's go ahead and pop this open, and it does latch securely, and we'll take a look. Now, like I said, this is really thick, nice, really thick and nice plastic. Let me see if I can zoom out just a bit here. So really nice and thick, and that actually has mixing room in it if you wanted to mix there. It also has a removable palette that's included for mixing, which, as you can see, mine is stained from use. I have put this through its tried and true testing in order to get to this review and put together the course that I was talking about. Spoiler alert, this is the gouache that I'm going to be using in that course. So here you have 18 cups of gouache that are in these removable jelly style cups, right? So there you have it. It's 30 milliliters of gouache. Now, when I originally got it, I unwrapped all of the jelly cups, and I allowed the gouache to dry out just a little bit because I do like painting from dry down paints. However, once I got into using them, I did discover that they are much more creamy and opaque, in my opinion, if you use them in the wet jelly form. So mine are semi-dry. I allow them to semi-dry out, but I still allow them to retain some of the moisture too. Now, you can do it however you see fit. If you decide to get this particular palette, you can dry them down, because you can paint from gouache dried down, or you can leave them in the wet jelly form if that's what you choose to do. Now, I did leave this particular one covered with the wrapper so we could take a look at the wrapper, and due to the fact that I really did not need both of the whites open at the same time. It comes with 18 colors. 2 of those are whites. As you can see, the foil covering on each of the jelly cup says Himi. It gives you the color name and the color number. It gives you the lot code I'm assuming for the set itself, it lets you know gouache 30 milliliters. And that is the information that's included. So each one of them did have the color name included. Now, if you will notice on the lid and on the packaging itself or on the palette itself, there is no mention of pigment information or light fast information. We will get to that in a minute though. So the paint consistency in each one of the jelly cups is really creamy and wet, and the colors are really bright and beautiful. I really love that. My very first jelly gouache set, so this was quite an experience for me, and I really did enjoy the whole aesthetic of the palette, the durability of the palette. I mean, once you run out of paint, if you want to, I'm assuming, well, you could probably refill the jelly cups with an equivalent color paint from another set if that's what you chose to do. You could put regular watercolors in them, or you can refill it with gouache from tube sets. As far as I know, there is no purchasing of the individual jelly cups open stock. Now, I'm assuming maybe you can get them in China, open stock, or maybe in some Asian countries, because Himi is a really big manufacturing company across seas. So, but I do know that they're not available in the US open stock. So if you wanted to replace a color and you wanted to replace it with the Himi, you would have to buy another set, which is why I do suggest that, you know, if you run out of a color and you want to replace it, just replace it with an equivalent color from another gouache tube. That way you can continue to use the palette if you want to. You could even take the jelly cups out and actually use the individual wells to put paint in if that's what you chose to do. I do like the convenience of being able to remove the jelly cups and maybe just using 2 or 3 of them in order to paint a composition. That would also help with color mixing. And you wouldn't necessarily think of, you know, color mixing practice with a gouache, but in this particular case, this works well for that aspect, and we will get to see that these gouaches really mix pretty cleanly. Now, if you know anything about me, and if you've seen anything, any of my work, you do know I'm a mixed media artist, and when it comes to using gouache, I use it in illustrative form, combination with other mediums, or I water the gouache down in order to give it a more transparent look and use it with watercolor effects. So that's pretty much the aesthetics of the palette and what the paints look like themselves. You guys were able to see the consistency. So let's take a look at some swatching here. I swatched the paints. Well, first thing I did was, after ordering them, I was looking at the listing on Amazon, and I noticed that the swatch sheet on Amazon included the color names as well as the pigment codes for each of the colors. So you are able to obtain pigment numbers for each of these. Now, from all of the research that I was able to accomplish via AliExpress, Amazon, doing some Google searching on the Miya company, the Himi line of gouache, I was not able to find any light fast information. If any of you guys have that information available, know where it can be found, please don't hesitate to post that in the comment section so that myself or anybody who happens to watch this video that is interested in the light fast ratings of this gouache, if it is available and you have it, you know, we'll have access to that. But as far as I know, as of now, I was not able to find any light fast information, only the pigment codes, which is a good thing because, I mean, for most budget sets of gouache, it doesn't include any pigment numbers or light fast ratings anyway. The one that I have seen that does was the, was the Master's Touch. Now that is a craft brand of gouache produced by Master's Touch, Hobby Lobby's house brand. Now, if you guys remember from that review, and I'm just going to grab that palette really quickly, those tubes included pigment numbers as well as color names. And if I'm not mistaken, there was light fast information. I didn't write it on the chart, but I do believe it did include that. So no. That one did not include light fast information either. So gouache coming with the pigment numbers is something that's a little bit new and a little bit great. Now, this is a budget brand. You do have student grades of gouache from like your legacy companies. I have Lucas Studio Gouache. I know Winsor & Newton makes a gouache. Holbein makes a gouache. Turner makes a gouache. So there are several different companies after their legacy companies that produce their own student grade gouache. Now, Miya is a budget company out of China. Well, it's a legacy company because it's been around for a while in China, but they produce budget products. Let me say it that way. So here was the color chart, and those were the pigment codes. You had some pretty decent colors in here. There are a few single pigment colors. For the most part, they are all mixtures, but you will be able to see that they mix pretty cleanly and pretty well. They don't give you mud at all. That was a great thing, especially considering the fact that most of them are dual pigment colors. You have a pretty decent arrangement of colors here. You know, nothing too outside the box or too unordinary. You have some really split primary down-to-earth colors that you can use to paint a composition with or mix other colors with. Yeah, just pretty straightforward. So looking at the swatches that I did, I swatched the gouache both on the paper that I tend to use most, which is 140-pound cold press watercolor paper, and then I also swatched them on Strathmore. I think this is mixed media paper. Let's check to see here. Yes, this is Strathmore black mixed media paper. It's acid free. It's 184-pound, or so basically. Well, that's what it says, 184-pound, 300 GSM, but 300 GSM is 140 pounds. So I'm not sure if there's like a different weight for mixed media, but this is a Strathmore 400 series. It is, in my opinion, their better cellulose paper line. So I always suggest that if you're going to use Strathmore products, because they're very accessible and economical, start with the 400 series. If you want a cellulose paper, they have 500 series, which is 100% cotton. And I do use that on a regular basis too. I do suggest both of those papers. But back to the gouache. So the gouache is pretty opaque, guys. Now, that is one of the main attributes that you're looking for in a gouache. Gouache in itself is essentially just an opaque watercolor. So what you're looking for with gouache is a lot of coverage, a lot of opacity, a lot of brightness and vibrancy. And of course, you would love for them to be able to mix well. Now, with most gouaches, especially with them not having light fast information, and most of them aren't too light fast from what I understand, they were invented to be a designer's gouache, something more for illustrating and reproduction. So therefore, the opacity is an important part of what makes a gouache a gouache. With that being said, you can water the gouache down in order to use it in watercolor effects and watercolor terms, and gouache is just called the opaque watercolor. So beautiful, beautiful, bright, opaque colors on the white watercolor paper. I was really impressed. I have other gouaches that I've used, and of course, like I said, I dry them down. I don't think that the other gouache that I have in my possession at the moment, Reeves, you've seen me use Reeves in a previous video demo. You've seen me use Master's Touch as well as do a review on Master's Touch. I haven't done a review on the Reeves, but of those two sets, this set being added to it is the most vibrant, has the most coverage, I think is the better quality of those three brands. Now, I do have Lucas Studio, which I have not gotten around to testing in or reviewing it, but that will be coming up in the future. On the black paper, again, really opaque. They stand up really well. They dry down with a really nice matte finish, which of course is great for mixed media work. It allows you to add a little bit more tooth to your composition so that it'll take extra dry media like colored pencils or even your soft pastels in order to add a little body punch to whatever you may be painting in conjunction with the gouache. So they are really nice and saturated for that particular purpose. Let's take a look at, and this review is going to be pretty straightforward, not too long. Let's take a look at some of the color mixing, the color mixing chart that I did with the gouache. And So let's see here. And one of the great things about gouache is that it will work well on any type of paper. Now again, I swatched on 140-pound cold press paper. That's 140-pound mixed media paper. Here I'm using a different 140-pound cold press paper in order to do the color mixing swatches on. And this is a really textured paper. But again, gouache works well across many different types of paper. You can even use it on cardstock. And you can even use it on sketchbook paper because you're not really using a lot of water with it. Well, unless you're watering it down to do color mixing or in watercolor effects, as you will see here with the examples that I did. So the first thing I did was a color mixing wheel. I used the deep red, the ultramarine, and the lemon yellow. Got a really nice violet, a really bright saturated orange, and green for that matter. So again, you can mix these colors. They will give you really saturated colors that are not included in the 18 set. So you would be adding to it. This also lets you know that you can pull those primaries out and be able to create the other colors from those primaries to complete a whole painting if that's what you wanted to do. Here I did a mixture of the ultramarine and the burnt sienna, if I'm not mistaken. No, I'm sorry, burnt umber and ultramarine, which gave me a really nice grayish black. So you can mix grays to black with this. The gray in the middle of the color wheel was mixed from the combination of the ultramarine, the deep red, and the lemon yellow. So two different variations of a gray that you can get from mixing those. I thought they were really nice. Here I did some additional mixing of oranges, violets, and purples. And over here I really want to see what greens I could mix from the convenience greens that were included in the set. So overall, really nice mixes, really clean. I didn't get clean mixes. I really didn't get any mud. They performed really well. Here they took well to salt, although I don't think gouache takes well to the salt effect, or takes as well to the salt effect as watercolors, but you can get some texture added doing it with the salt. And here I always do a lift test with you guys. So let me grab a scrubber brush really quickly. And we are going to get that clean. And then we are going to just try to scrub out squash here. Now I have paper towels this time, guys. I can't believe it. I have paper towels. So we're just gonna lift it. And remember, blot, don't rub. Let's try that one. Let's see if we can get a little bit more of that out. Just to see. Now, this is not a 100% white paper, but as you can see, the gouache paints will lift, and they do lift pretty well. So you can clean up areas if you happen to have a little overrun with your gouache painting when you do it. Now keep in mind, if the gouache painting is in its normal consistency straight out of the jelly cups, more than likely you're not going to get any running or any blooming or anything of that nature because of the consistency. But if you do water them down to use them more like watercolors, you are going to get the same advantages and disadvantages that you get with a traditional watercolor. So please keep that in mind. So yeah, that's what the color mixing looked like, excuse me. So overall, guys, I like the gouache. I think that they are a really wonderful paint. Really straightforward, clean, beautiful, bright, saturated colors that mix really well, and you can use them in a traditional watercolor form without any hemming or hawing or problems, which makes them very versatile, giving you the ability to have a watercolor effect, to have a more opaque, creamy gouache effect, use it in mixed media for layered effects. So yeah, really nice. Let's take a look at some of the paintings that I did before we wrap this up. Now, I'm not going to show you guys everything because some of these paintings are actual video tutorials for the gouache course that I'm putting together, and I want to make sure that everything that's in that course are never seen before demos or paintings. So I'm only going to share 2 of the things that I've done, but I think you'll get the gist. The first one is straightforward, really simple, a really simple painting demo tutorial that I put up on the channel of Apple. I just kind of had this idea in my head of the first day of school, if you were like a kindergartner or a first grader, giving the teacher an apple. So I just kind of wanted to do that. Really illustrative, really pretty, really saturated and beautiful. I had absolutely no problems at all with the gouache in this painting. They blended really well with the color pencils, which I added on top, as I do in most of my mixed media paintings, in order to give the apple more body, more roundness, kind of ground it to the picture more. I think it came out really nice. Now this is Fabriana Studios 140-pound cold pressed paper. This is a 25% cotton rag blend paper, so it does, you know, work a little bit better than a normal cellulose paper. But again, we're talking about gouache here, so those colors are going to be really bright and opaque, pretty much whatever paper you use them on. Here, because I use more of a watercolor effect with most of this, it did do me well to use a paper that had a little bit of cotton blend in it. Not that using a cellulose paper would have given me any trouble. The shadow I was able to achieve from actually mixing a gray by mixing the actual red and green pigments that I used in order to maintain color harmony. Really nice painting. I also did a poppy here. Now this was more of an inking sketch, or I'm not going to say ink and wash, because I used the gouache in a really heavy consistency, so it wasn't really a wash, but I did want to see how it would work with like an ink and wash ideal. And for the most part, again, just like the apple came out really bright and beautiful, I mean, I was pretty satisfied with the way the composition came out. It took the colored pencils really well. Prismacolor especially layers so beautifully on top of this gouache. Calls for really, really nice mixed media paintings. So there you have it, guys. Pretty straightforward. In all honesty, I definitely do recommend the gouache. I think this is a really, really great set. Didn't find many cons about it at all. I mean, I didn't find any cons about it, other than the fact that, you know, the palette itself is pretty heavy, because it is a lot of gouache. But that's a good thing, because you're definitely getting the bang for your buck. You're getting a lot of product in that palette that is going to go a really, really long way. Now, I am going to be sure to include the link in case you're interested in purchasing these in the video description. And I was able to pick my particular setup from Amazon for $23.99, which are about $24 if you want to round it up. So that's $23.99 by 1830 milliliter jelly cups, which puts it at about $1.33 per jelly cup. I think that is an amazing price for such a high quality gouache paint, for such a nice product. And that actually is a really good price for how, oh, I stuck my finger in there, for how much paint you're actually getting, because that's 30 milliliters. Now you have to think about it. The normal paint tube, and I'm just gonna grab one here. Let me see if I can put my hands on the paint tube. Okay, so I'm just gonna grab this Creative View paint tube. So here you have a normal size paint tube, just standard, you know, typically most paint tubes are 12 milliliters. So this is a 12 milliliter tube, and depending on the brand, you can pay as much as $15, $16 for a single tube of paint. Here you have a 30 milliliter cup of paint for about $1.33 per cup. So that is an amazing price for this 18 jelly cup set of gouache, considering the amount of gouache that you're getting in there. And I will say it again, considering the quality of the gouache that is inside the set. So do I recommend the gouache? Hands down. I think that it is a great, amazing set. I think you have, looking at the pigments here, some pretty decent pigments. I don't see anything that would be too extremely fugitive that I know of. I mean, maybe some of the dual pigment mixes and the convenient colors might not be. They may have a few dodgy pigments in there, but for the most part, nothing too bad at all considering what you're paying for it. So yeah, there you have it. I recommend the gouache. they would be a wonderful addition, especially if you are a beginner to gouache and it's your first time out the gate. This would be a wonderful set to have in order to get yourself going. If you're experienced, I think they'll be a wonderful set to add to your collection if it's something that you feel the need to. So there you have it, guys. If you found any helpful information or anything you liked in this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Keep in mind that giving the video a thumbs up, guys, is helping me out and it's helping the video out. Get it in front of more people who may actually find this information useful and helpful. Go ahead and hit the comment section up. Let me know what you think. Have you used the Miya Himi? How was it for you? Is it something that you would be interested in if you haven't? And go ahead and let me guys know, let me know what you think about, the gouache course. Is that something that people are interested in? An extreme beginner's gouache course? Yeah, I would love to know that. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell for new content that may be coming out. Share the video. Sharing is caring. You never know who else may be interested in what may be said during the course of the video. Don't forget that you can like and follow us on Instagram, Facebook, as well as TikTok now. There is also an art group for the Thrifty Apprentice channel on Facebook called Watercolor Paints, Pastels, and Pencils. There's a link in the video description. Please, if you're interested, go ahead and join. It's a wonderful, safe community that I'm trying to start where we can learn together, grow together, share our paintings, talk about different products, and just have a great old time in the name of art. It is a respectable place, safe place for artists. So please, please, please keep in mind that if you decide to join us there, that it is going to be a place that we are going to show respect for each other. Anything else? I think that's it, guys. And remember, if you're interested in my most recommended products, there is a link at the very bottom of the video description for a list of those most recommended products. And as I tell you at the end of every single video, my friends, just keep painting.